In the year 170 AD, on the frozen banks of the Danube, the most powerful man in the world was alone. Outside, barbarian fires dotted the horizon like open wounds in the darkness. Inside the tent, under the faint light of a single oil lamp, Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, commander of legions, ruler of an empire stretching from Britain to Egypt, was not planning the next battle. He was writing. Not for historians, not for the Senate, for himself. A single line that would take him years to fully understand: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. He was not philosophizing. He was trying to survive. His wife had died. The Antonine Plague was killing 1,000 soldiers a day. His most trusted generals had turned against him. And there, surrounded by death, betrayal, and chaos, the emperor stumbled upon a paradox that would change the history of human thought. The only way to gain control is to stop trying to control. That statement should be absurd. It's like saying the way to swim is to stop moving. But 1800 years later, neuroscience and clinical psychology would arrive at the same conclusion that a Roman emperor reached alone, by candlelight, while the world crumbled around him. Now look at the world around you. Look at yourself. You check your phone an average of 96 times a day. That's a real figure from a Shurian's 2019 study. You rehearse conversations in your head with people who may never say what you fear. You constantly recalculate emotional routes, trying to avoid the slightest discomfort. You edit your personality in every room you enter. You soften your opinions to avoid friction. You swallow truths to avoid rejection. And when something slips out of your plan, a project that fails, a relationship that falls apart, you don't just feel frustrated. You collapse. Because at some point you absorbed a lie woven into the fabric of modern culture. If you control everything, you'll be safe. Psychologist Susan David from Harvard calls this emotional rigidity, the belief that we can and must manage every thought, every outcome. Her studies published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology show that the greater the need for control, the higher the levels of anxiety, depression, and chronic dissatisfaction. The tighter you grip, the more it slips through your fingers. You are exhausted. Not physically, existentially. Tired of pretending, of carrying expectations that were never yours. And no one notices because everyone is doing the same thing. But a Roman emperor understood this 2,000 years ago. A German novelist turned it into the most beautiful spiritual journey ever written. And modern science finally proves they were both right. Marcus Aurelius never intended to be a philosopher. He was placed on the throne at 40 and spent the last 19 years of his life at war. Not by choice, by duty. While other emperors built monuments to their own glory, he wrote a journal that was never meant to be published. Today we call it Meditations, but the title was invented by editors. The original had no name. It was just the notes of a man trying not to lose his mind. And at the center of that journal, one idea appears again and again, almost like a desperate prayer. Stop trying to control what doesn't depend on you. The rain doesn't ask your permission to fall. Other people's opinions don't wait for your approval to exist. Death doesn't consult your plans. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. What Marcus Aurelius proposed was not passivity. It was a brutal distinction between two worlds. What is within your power, your thoughts, your reactions, your values, and what never was, the outcomes, other people, chance. Seneca, another Stoic, decades earlier, had already condensed this idea into a cutting phrase: we suffer more in imagination than in reality. It's not the event that destroys you. It's the story you tell yourself about it repeatedly at 3 in the morning. But detachment is not only a Greco-Roman idea. In 1922, A German writer named Hermann Hesse published a short novel that would become one of the most widely read books of the 20th century, Siddhartha. The story of a young man who abandons everything, wealth, pleasure, religion, even the teachings of the Buddha, in search of something no master can teach. And the most powerful moment in the book happens by a river. Siddhartha had spent years trying. He tried the discipline of the ascetics, fasting until his bones showed. He tried the opposite path, drowning in pleasure, sex, money. He tried devoted spirituality. And none of these paths worked. Each one promised control over suffering. Each one failed. It is by the river, at the lowest point of his life, that Siddhartha finally hears. Not a sermon. Not a doctrine. The sound of the water. The river doesn't try to be anything. It doesn't fight its banks. It doesn't plan its course. It simply flows. And in that flow, Siddhartha finds what he had been seeking his entire life, not through effort but through surrender. Hesse wrote, "The river is everywhere at the same time, at its source, at its mouth, at the waterfall, at the current, at the ocean, in the mountains, everywhere. And for it there exists only the present, not the shadow of the past, nor the shadow of the future." A Roman emperor and a fictional German character, separated by nearly 2 millennia, arrived at the same truth. Suffering does not live in what happens to you. Lives in your refusal to let go. Now you might be thinking, this is beautiful in philosophy. It's poetic in a novel. But does it work in real life? I have bills to pay. I have deadlines. I have people who depend on me. I can't just let go. And that is exactly what makes the paradox so hard to accept. Because detachment doesn't mean inaction. It doesn't mean not caring. It means stopping the destruction of yourself over things that were never in your hands. Modern psychology has a name for this. In the 1960s, psychologist Julian developed the concept of locus of control. People with an external locus of control believe their lives are governed by outside forces. Luck, fate, other people's will. People with an internal locus of control believe their choices shape their reality. What decades of research have shown is that the second group, the group that focuses on what they can control and releases the rest, experiences less anxiety, more resilience, and greater life satisfaction. Marcus Aurelius didn't know the term, but he practiced the idea every night in his tent. And it goes further. In 2016, neuroscientist Judson Brewer from Brown University published a study showing that when we practice conscious detachment, when we observe an anxious thought without trying to control it, activity in the posterior cingulate cortex, the brain region associated with rumination and attachment, decreases significantly. In simple terms, when you stop fighting the thought loses power over you. Hesse's river. Marcus Aurelius's tent. Brown University's neuroscience lab. All saying the same thing in different languages. The more you try to control a thought, the more it controls you. If you've ever stayed awake at 3 in the morning replaying something you said in a conversation 6 months ago, that's not a flaw in you. It's your brain doing exactly what it was wired to do, seeking control over the uncontrollable. And the only way out is not to fight harder. It's to realize that the fight is the problem. When Siddhartha stopped seeking, he found. When Marcus Aurelius stopped resisting the chaos, he found peace within it. Not because the world changed, because they changed their relationship with the world. There is a moment, and perhaps you've lived it, when something inside you simply lets go. It's not a rational decision. It's not a step in a 5-point plan. Feels more like exhaustion. But not the kind that destroys. The kind that sets you free. That instant when you realize you cannot control what people will think of you. That you cannot force anyone to stay. That you cannot plan every second of the future. And instead of panic, for the first time you feel something strange. Relief. Marcus Aurelius felt this in a frozen tent while his empire crumbled. Siddhartha felt this by a river after losing everything he believed he needed. And what neuroscience now confirms is that this moment is not weakness. It is the brain finally stepping out of war mode against itself. The paradox of detachment is not a technique. It is not something you apply on Monday morning between your coffee and your first email. It is a shift in how you inhabit your own mind. It is understanding that holding on tightly is not a sign of commitment. It is a sign of fear. And that letting go is not giving up. It is trusting that what is truly yours doesn't need to be gripped. Think about the time something good happened in your life. Not when you planned obsessively. Not when you controlled every variable. But when you were present, relaxed, open to whatever came. It's almost as if life responds to surrender with harmony, and to rigidity with more resistance. This isn't mysticism. It's what happens when the prefrontal cortex stops sabotaging the present moment with scenarios that will never exist. Seneca wrote, nearly 2,000 years ago, something that sounds as if it were written yesterday: "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it." And Hesse would complete that idea centuries later, with Siddhartha hearing the river say that time does not exist. That all that matters is here, now, in this very moment you are trying to control instead of live. Perhaps the question is not what you need to conquer, achieve, or control. Perhaps the real question is simpler and infinitely harder. What do you need to let go of? What version of yourself are you carrying that was never yours? What expectation are you feeding that only consumes you? What fear is keeping you trapped in the very place you want to leave? The river doesn't fight its banks, and yet it reaches the sea. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing. Every week we explore the ideas that shaped who we are and who we might become.